Hello you guys, welcome back to Car Tech and More, and today will be our second episode of Car Talk. So today we're going to be talking about Ford versus Chevy, the everlasting battle, Ford versus Chevy, mainly in their trucks. It's always like, which one's better, and really what it comes down to is personal preference. That's what I think. I don't think there's really a better one because they both have their ups and they both have their downs. But I mean, really, they're both great trucks, all-around great trucks. I know people hate on Ford, found on road dead, and in all reality, there's more Fords on the road than Chevys. So there's going to be more incidents reported and more problems with them because there's going to be more out on the road. I mean, say you got like 100 Fords and you got like 20 Chevys. Now I know that's not what it's like, but say you got that on the road, you're obviously gonna have more Fords coming in to be fixed because there's 5 times as many as Chevys. They're being driven more. So that's the way I think of it. But Ford and Chevy have been going at it for years and years, and there is no clear winner, really. It's all personal preference. I like Ford because most all their vehicles are made in America, which is good, and that's support America because it'll help American jobs and all that good stuff that we need, and we are currently failing at right now. But let's talk about real quick. So Ford and Chevy, they got a lot more going for them than just their trucks. They have their performance lineup. They're more of like a luxury daily drivable lineup, and then you got your SUVs and crossovers. Now Chevy has the Trax, Equinox, Traverse, Tahoe, and Suburban, getting smallest to biggest, and they're all great vehicles. Amazing. And then the performance lineup, Chevy's got the Camaro, the SS Sedan, the Corvette Stingray, the Corvette Grand Sport, the Corvette Z06, and that's it for them. Then electric, they have the Volt and the Bolt EV, which I don't even consider electric because they run off gas on a backup, which I don't think is truly electric. And then trucks, then they got the Colorado, which is their smaller truck, and the Silverado 1500 and 2500 and 3500 HDs. Then they get the commercial lineup. Not going to talk about that. Cars, Chevy's got the Spark, the Sonic, the Cruze, the Malibu, and the Impala. Impala, I gotta say, they did a really good job in the last year, but it is a little pricey. I do have to say, it's pricey. And then Ford, what do they got going for them? Well, they got the 2017 Fiesta, the Focus, the Fusion, the C-Max, the Mustang, and the Taurus. Now, the Mustang, they consider it a car, not a performance, because it can be a car and it can be a performance. It can be both, pretty much. And then SUV, they got the Escape, the Transit Connect, the Edge, the Ford Flex, Explorer, and the Expedition. And trucks, they have the Transit Connect, the Ford F-150, which they actually released the 2018 that you can actually get now. We'll talk about that in a minute. 2017 Transit, and the Ford Super Duty class. Hybrids and EVs, C-Max hybrid, Ford Fusion hybrid, C-Max Energy SE, Focus Electric, and the Focus Energy SE. Commercial lineup as well. And then performance, they have the Fiesta ST, the Focus ST, the Focus RS, and the F-150 Raptor, beautiful truck, and the 2017 Ford Mustang Shelby GT350, amazing car, and finally, last but not least, the Ford GT. And then that. Now, what has Ford got going for them in performance lineup? We'll talk about performance first. Now, performance, I consider Ford to have the Mustang, the Raptor and the Focus RS. I don't really consider the ST or the Fiesta ST to be super performance. I mean, they are, but it's not what I'm going to talk about today. And then they got the Ford GT, so they kind of got that lower, which is the Mustang and the Focus RS. And then they got that mid, which is like the Shelby and the Raptor. And then you got the upper, which is the Ford GT. Now, Chevy, they have the Camaro on the low end, then the SS sedan in the middle, along with the Stingray, and then they got the Grand Sport and the Z06 up at the top. Now, they don't really have, and then the Z01 is another thing that's in there. That's right in the mid, too, or upper, I guess you could consider. And then you get the add-on packages like the Z01 1LE and, other additions. Or the Carbon 65 Z06, but we'll talk about that specific in another Car Talk episode. But Chevrolet does not have a performance truck. They don't have, they got the Z71, but I don't really consider that to be quite the level that the Ford Raptor is at, because the Raptor, I think of it as a performance off-road beast, monster. Where the Z71 is kind of just an add-on to the Silverado. But Chevy does not have a Ford GT level car. The Ford GT is a supercar. Chevy doesn't have a supercar. They got their C7Rs, but those are racing cars, not really supercars. So Ford's got that going for them as well. Now, personally, between the Z01 and the Shelby, they are very close competitors. I would probably pick the Shelby. Now, versus the Shelby R edition versus the Z01 1LE, I would probably pick the Z01 1LE just because it looks amazing. And yeah. Now, Mustang base versus Camaro base, I'd probably take the Mustang. And Corvette Z06 is my dream car, so I'd take that over anything on this list. But you also have the electric class. I think Chevy's kind of got the electric going for them, and the Volt, great car, but it's only got like 50 miles of range, and then you go to gas. I don't really consider that. How is that an electric car when you have to run off gas once you run out of battery range? And the same with the Fusion electric. So, I don't really... Tesla's got them beat by quite a bit, let me just say that. So, anyways, let's start talking cars. Now, they got the Fusion compares to like the Impala, you got the Focus that compares to the Malibu, you got the Fiesta that compares to like the Sonic, and oh yeah, the Cruze is in there. Yeah, I guess Chevy's got their extra cars in there. But oh yeah, you got the Taurus, which I guess the Taurus would be the Impala, the Fusion would be the Malibu, and the Focus would be the Cruze. The Fiesta would be the Sonic, and then the Spark's just kind of added in there. The Spark is actually Chevy's cheapest vehicle. But now for the next thing, the next category, which is trucks. Now trucks. Trucks. Oh man. Now Ford has their Ford Raptor. Amazing truck. We're not going to be talking about that today because that's more performance category. Trucks. The age-old question, Ford versus Chevy, which is better? The world may never know. We really will probably never know because they are both such amazing trucks that you can't really pick one. Some people will pick Chevy just because, it's a Ford. Oh, I don't want a Ford. I don't want a Ford. I'd rather have my Chevys. Me, I'd pick the Ford. Now, if you're talking like the F-150 spec'd out versus like the Chevy 1500 Silverado Z71, I'd go for the Z71 because they look amazing, especially the blackout edition. Well, just blacked out, not edition, but if you're talking a dually, I'd go with the Ford because I think they look way better. But Ford, their 2018 Ford has a lot going for them. I watched the video. They got the new Wi-Fi hotspot, which, not the Wi-Fi, but LTE built in, which I know the 2017 Silverado had that capable as well. So Ford kind of did that today. They got their aluminum chassis, and then they got their all new engine lineups. Tons of options, really. And they got the braking assist that'll brake for you, which is really something that's been around for a bit, but it's nice to see it on a truck. Now, Chevy has not released their 2018 Silverado yet, so we gotta wait for them to come out with that and see what they got running for them. But Ford's doing pretty good. Now, I've heard that the Ford F-150 is going to be going diesel with one of the engine options, which would be pretty interesting to see because the Ford F-150s never went diesel. It's usually a gasoline, unless you went for the Super Duty, which would be diesel. And then they also got the Ford Pass app that you can check how much gas you got. You can start it and unlock it, I believe, and do a bunch of other stuff with the cool app. And then, like I said, you got the braking assist and 4 different engine options. And they also have this new technology that can sense the blind spots behind your trailer that you wouldn't normally be able to see. So that'd be really nice when you're towing. And also the app can find your truck, which, it's nice to have a built-in app instead of buying a separate thing to put in your vehicle to GPS track your car. It's kind of annoying, And then also, they're equipping it with a 10-speed automatic, so that'll really help with pulling heavier loads and getting the power to the ground. And then, like I said, they got that Wi-Fi hotspot and lots more, but that's really Ford's got going for them. Chevy, they don't have too much more. They got the steel bed, which is better than the aluminum. It's stronger, but it's also heavier, and you get your steel frame. I don't really know. Chevy they haven't released their 2018, so I can't really talk too much. When they release it, I will look into it and I will check it out and compare it to the 2018. But there's not too much more to talk about because, you got your packages, the High Country, the Platinum, the whatever, the Lorette, all that good stuff, but there's not too much more versus each other, because they are both great vehicles. I would choose both of them if I could, but I cannot, and I'm coming out with a review sometime soonish of a Ford F-350 Lorette, and it's a dually. It's a beautiful truck. It's a 2007. We're going to be reviewing that soon, and I'm going to be driving it with a 40-foot gooseneck. Should be pretty fun. But I think that's going to end off this episode of Car Talk episode 2, and as always, you guys, let me know how I'm doing. Subscribe, like the video, and see you guys later. Have a good day.